on the turntable.
Pizza on the turntable? What? Oh no. Uh-oh. Things happen, like, well, this. And when they happen, is there anything you can do about it? Welcome back to The Joy of Vinyl. I'm Rick Coste, and today's episode is all about these warped records. Enjoy. There's nothing more frustrating than buying a brand new sealed record, unwrapping it, and placing it on your turntable to find it's warped. Okay, there are more frustrating things, but it does rank up there with scratches in the record buying world. I've had this happen to me on 3 to 4 occasions in the last couple of years, and 2 of them were of the 180-gram variety. I have a sneaking suspicion it's because of the extra time it takes for the record to cool down after being pressed. That extra time may cause unequal cooling, thus warpage. Fun, right? Well, they're still playable, and I make it a point not to look at the tone arm ride the warp waves. It makes me a little bit seasick to watch. Now, will a slight warp hurt my stylus? Well, no, it won't. But a bad warp easily could. And by bad, I mean a warp that causes the stylus to surrender the fight and jump out of the groove. I imagine it would be like walking a straight line during an earthquake. Now, in all of my years collecting, I've only had one of my records become warped to the point it was unplayable. It was my vintage copy of ZZ Top's Eliminator. And how it happened? It's a mystery. A couple of decades ago, there was a short period where it was in storage, and it might have happened then, but nothing else in the storage crate had been affected. I still shake my head over that one. Since it was basically a useless piece of plastic at that point, I tried a couple of things to flatten it. When it became obvious that no effort on my part could reverse that mysterious warp, I tossed it aside and replaced it. Actually, I did hold on to that warped record pretty much as a testing disc should a miracle cure come along, and I've tried many. As a result, it's slightly less warped than it had been, but it's still unplayable. I also think there's now a strange object embedded permanently in the middle of Got Me Under Pressure. How ironic is that? If there is one thing I'm an expert in, it's useless knowledge. I can tell you how fast the Millennium Falcon is. I can also tell you about the incestuous history between Black Sabbath and Deep Purple. I'd bore you to tears with how long I could talk about it. But if they passed out doctorates in useless knowledge, I'd pretty much be well on my way. I also know if you come across a warped record, the smartest thing to do is to mourn it, give it a respectful burial, and replace it. It's difficult. I have an almost physical aversion to tossing a record away. I even have a hard time handling a dead record improperly. I have a prop record that I use for videos because it's in such terrible shape that it no longer matters how I hold it, but it still feels wrong to put my fingers on its groove, even though the surface itself is as scarred as Freddy Krueger's face. But I'll save how it got that way for another day. My point is, once a record is unplayable, it's given up the ghost. Its soul is gone. There's no pet cemetery for a badly warped record, so don't try to bring it back. Like my ZZ Top record, the reason for a record's demise might be a mystery, or can be for several known reasons. Being too close to a heat source is one. Being left for hours in the sun, or in a car that spent too much time in the sun, is another. Stacking records like a tower can do so as well, and it has to do with the pressure being placed on the bottom records. Now, how the warp occurs is not rocket science, but unwarping it is. Think of it like trying to put an egg back in its shell after breaking it. I'm not saying it's impossible. Nothing is impossible, well, except settling the argument about who shot first, Han or Greedo. Han did in the original version of Star Wars. History may have been rewritten, at least in the Star Wars films, but you still can't change the past. Now, do a Google search, and you'll find many articles, posts, and Reddit responses about how to fix a warped record. I've probably tried every one of them on Eliminator, except for one, which I'll get to in a few moments. You'll read that you can fix a warp by putting it under a stack of books for a few days or weeks. This has zero effect on a bad warp. I could have had an elephant stand on it for a week and it would still be unplayable. A very slight warp? Well, maybe. But make sure your record is clean and in a protective sleeve before trying this. And please don't get your hopes up. Warped records love to dash hopes. They're evil in that way. There's also the oven trick. That involves placing the offending record between two panes of glass, heating it on low for 20 to 30 minutes, taking it out and letting it cool down with something weighted on top. Again, a miracle might occur, but I'm not sure I'd want to put that record back on my turntable after. There's the danger of groove melt, and if the record and the panes of glass weren't spotless, you might bake a speck of something unwanted into it. I did, and that something appeared out of nowhere during the baking process. I really think the devil put it there. There are also tricks like placing a record between hot tiles, again with something weighted on top. I was too bored at that point to read on, so I'm not sure where you get the hot tiles. A flooring store, I guess, if they even sell tiles separately, in which case they probably cost as much as buying a replacement record. As I said, I was too tired to read on. It's essentially an altered version of that glass sandwich that you stick in the oven. I mentioned a method I haven't tried, nor will I ever try it. And why is that? Well, because it costs money, a lot of money. In one case, I could buy 5 or more copies of Eliminator, and in the other, I could buy 64. Now, these are record flattening machines. In the former case, it's not actually a machine, it's more of a souped up version of the oven bake solution. It's called Vinyl Flat and sells for around $139 in the US. I suppose if I had a truckload of warped records I simply had to fix, well, I might try it. But at 1 hour or more per record, as per the Vinyl Flat instructions, that truckload would take a very long time. Then there's the true flattening machine called the Orb. Think waffle press without the waffle ridges. From what I understand, after 4 hours or so in this machine, it'll fix warps caused by pressing problems or storage issues. It won't repair excessive heat damage. Now, I'm not sure if it would have done anything for my ZZ Top record. For $1,600, I don't think I'll ever find out. Now, I certainly can't give advice on something I haven't tried. The jury on the Vinyl Flat and the Orb are still out, at least as far as I'm concerned, and probably forever in my case. If you've tried either one, let me know what your results were. As far as everything else, they might be fun experiments if you have time, but if not, I'd recommend saving your time and probably your money and replacing that warped record. Now, if you enjoy vinyl records as much as I do, feel free to subscribe. And if you would like to know when new episodes are released, also click the little bell icon below. If you want to learn more about vinyl records, head on over to joyofvinyl.com. And until next time, please take care of yourself and enjoy your records.